It was a bright morning at the Los Angeles Police Training Academy. The recruits gathered inside the dojo-style training hall, their chatter echoing off the walls as they waited for the day's special guest. Some whispered rumors of a celebrity instructor coming in for a surprise demo. Moments later, the doors slid open, and in walked Steven Seagal. Dressed in his signature black jai, calm as still water, he bowed politely to the instructors and walked toward the center of the mat. The room went silent, until one young recruit, Officer Cole, couldn't help but chuckle. "Wait, this guy? The old movie star?" he said loudly enough for everyone to hear. A few others laughed nervously, unsure whether it was okay to join in. Seagal's calm eyes glanced toward Cole, but his expression didn't change. "We're here to learn," he said softly, his deep voice carrying authority without a hint of anger. "Let's begin." Cole leaned toward another officer and whispered, "Learn what?" "How to do movie flips." He smirked and crossed his arms, clearly unimpressed. The lead instructor cleared his throat. "Gentlemen, Mr. Seagal has trained law enforcement units and special forces teams worldwide. I suggest you show respect," but Cole only shrugged. "Respect's earned, sir." The words hung heavy in the air. Seagal didn't respond. Instead, he simply motioned for everyone to form a semicircle. Moving with the precision of a seasoned master, he demonstrated simple yet sharp defensive movements. Disarming techniques, wrist locks, takedowns, all executed with controlled grace. Every move was silent but powerful. You could feel the experience in every step he took. Still, Cole kept whispering jokes under his breath, trying to make the others laugh. Seagal paused and looked directly at him. "Young man," he said quietly, "sometimes the loudest one in the room learns the slowest." The other recruits fell silent. Cole smirked again, pretending not to care, but his face flushed slightly red. Seagal turned back to the group. "Now, who's brave enough to volunteer?" No one moved. Everyone knew where this was going. The air thickened with anticipation as Cole finally raised his hand, half smirking, half challenging. He had no idea what was about to happen next, but when the cop's mom walked in, everyone went silent. The tension in the training hall was almost tangible. Every eye in the room was on Officer Cole, the cocky young recruit who had just volunteered to face off against the legendary Steven Seagal. Cole rolled his shoulders, grinning as he stepped onto the mat. "All right, Mr. Hollywood," he said mockingly. "Show me what you've got." Seagal didn't flinch. His expression stayed calm, unreadable. "It's not about what I've got, son. It's about what you're ready to learn." The recruits exchanged glances. Some were excited, others nervous. They all knew Seagal's reputation, not just as a movie icon, but as a real-life Aikido master who had trained elite police and military units across the world. But Cole wasn't impressed. He circled Seagal with a smirk. "Looks easy enough, all slow-motion stuff from your films, huh?" The instructor frowned. "Officer Cole, that's enough." Cole ignored him. "No disrespect, sir," he said sarcastically. "I just want to see if these movie moves actually work in real life." Seagal's eyes didn't leave him. "You might learn something if you keep your mouth shut long enough." A few officers chuckled quietly, trying to hide their laughter. Cole's ego flared. "Oh, you think you can teach me a lesson?" Without another word, Seagal raised one hand and motioned for him to attack. Cole lunged forward, grabbing Seagal's arm, and in a flash Seagal twisted his wrist and pivoted, sending Cole sprawling onto the mat before anyone even blinked. The entire room gasped. Cole sat up, stunned, clutching his arm. What was that?" Seagal stood over him, calm as ever. "That was real life." Cole got back to his feet, face flushed with embarrassment. "You caught me off guard," he snapped. "Do it again." Seagal nodded once. "As you wish." Cole attacked again, faster this time, trying to prove himself. Seagal stepped aside effortlessly, guiding Cole's momentum against him. With one subtle motion, he locked Cole's elbow, twisted his wrist, and sent him flat on his back again. The crowd couldn't believe what they were seeing. There was no flashy movement, no overacting, just smooth, precise control. Cole slammed his fist on the mat. "You think that's funny?" Seagal leaned down slightly. "No, I think it's humbling." The instructor stepped forward. "That's enough, Officer Cole." But Cole wasn't ready to quit. His pride had taken a direct hit, and pride, as every fighter knows, is a dangerous thing. He stood again, breathing heavily, pointing at Seagal. "You're just lucky I wasn't serious." Seagal raised an eyebrow. "Oh? Then be serious." The recruits started murmuring among themselves. One whispered, "This is gonna end badly." Cole rushed in again, this time swinging harder. A sloppy move, pure emotion. Seagal didn't even counter. He simply sidestepped, gently placed a hand on Cole's shoulder, and used his own energy to guide him down. In an instant, Cole was face down, his arm locked in a hold that could have broken it with an ounce more pressure. Seagal spoke softly but firmly. "Control is strength. Rage is weakness." Cole froze, realizing Seagal wasn't hurting him. He was teaching him. When Seagal finally released him, Cole stood up slowly. His arrogance was starting to crack, but he covered it with another smirk. All right, not bad for an old man." Seagal didn't react. He just stepped back, motioning for the next recruit, but everyone was too stunned to move. The instructor clapped once. "That's enough for today. Mr. Seagal, thank you for the demonstration." The tension began to ease, but Cole wasn't done. As the officers gathered their gear, Cole muttered to his friend, "I don't get the hype. He's all smoke and mirrors. Real cops don't fight like that." Unfortunately for him, Seagal heard it. He turned his head slowly. "Son, real cops protect lives, not egos." That single line hit harder than any punch could. The room went silent again. Cole looked away, biting his lip, pretending not to care. But deep down, he knew he'd been outclassed, not just physically but in composure and respect. Seagal walked toward the exit, bowing respectfully to the instructors. "Thank you for the time," he said. "Discipline begins with humility." As he left, a few recruits whispered among themselves, "Man, that was amazing." Cole had no chance. Seagal didn't even break a sweat. Cole pretended not to hear them, but humiliation burned in his chest like fire. He thought it couldn't get any worse. He was wrong, because the next person who would walk through that door, the one person he never wanted to see him like this, was about to make sure he learned his lesson for good. Have you ever seen someone disrespect an expert and instantly regret it? Comment below and tell us which country and city you're watching from right now. The next morning, the air at the academy felt heavier than usual. Yesterday's humiliation still echoed through the halls like a rumor that refused to die. Officer Cole walked in, jaw tight, pretending not to hear the whispers trailing behind him. "Hey Cole," one recruit teased. "Heard you went flying yesterday." Another added, "Man, Seagal threw you like a bag of rice." Cole glared at them. "Keep talking. That old guy just got lucky." But deep down, he knew that wasn't true. He hadn't just been thrown, he'd been taught a lesson. The problem was his ego couldn't handle it. When the instructor announced that Seagal would return for a second training session, the room buzzed with excitement. Everyone was eager to see if Cole would dare challenge him again. Cole smirked, leaning back in his chair. "If he wants round 2, I'm ready." An hour later, Steven Seagal entered the dojo once again, calm, graceful, carrying the same quiet authority as before. He greeted the officers, bowed slightly, and began another demonstration. "Today," Seagal said in his deep, steady tone, "we focus on control under pressure. A true fighter never seeks a fight, he prevents one." Cole rolled his eyes. "Guess I missed that part yesterday," he muttered. Seagal looked at him briefly but said nothing. Instead, he asked for a volunteer. A different recruit stepped forward, and Seagal demonstrated a simple disarm. Smooth, efficient, almost too fast to see. The crowd clapped politely. Then, with a subtle smirk, Seagal said, "Perhaps our friend from yesterday would like to assist again." The room went silent. Cole froze for a second, then straightened up, forcing a grin. "Sure, why not? Maybe I'll give the fans a better show this time." He walked to the center of the mat, puffing out his chest. The cameras were out again. A few recruits secretly recording on their phones, hoping to catch another viral moment. Seagal faced him calmly. This isn't about pride, son, it's about awareness. Anger blinds you to the lesson. Cole shrugged. Then teach me again, Sensei. Without warning, he lunged, faster and harder than before. But Seagal was ready. With a minimal shift of his stance, he redirected Cole's arm, locked it behind his back, and gently lowered him to the mat. The motion was effortless, almost gentle, but absolute. Cole grunted, frustrated. Stop going easy on me. Seagal released him, his voice even calmer than before. Trust me, I'm not. Cole jumped back up, breathing heavily. Come on then, show me something real. This time he threw a wild punch aimed at Seagal's jaw, but before the punch even connected, Seagal sidestepped, grabbed his wrist, and turned his momentum into a perfect takedown. Cole was face first on the mat again before he realized what had happened. The recruits gasped and cheered quietly. Seagal held him down gently and said, Strength without wisdom is chaos. You have both arms and ego, but only one of them will serve you well. Cole stared at the mat, humiliated again. You talk too much, he muttered. Seagal let him go and stood up. Then maybe it's time you listened. The instructor clapped once. Let's take a break. Seagal nodded, walking toward the edge of the room. But before he could leave, Cole shouted, Hey, Seagal! The entire class turned. Cole's voice was trembling with frustration now. You think you're better than me just because you've got some movie moves? You're living off your old fame. I'm the future of this department, not you. Seagal turned slowly. His gaze wasn't angry, I was just deeply disappointed. Son, he said quietly, the future doesn't belong to those who shout the loudest. It belongs to those who listen. For the first time, there was a flicker of uncertainty in Cole's eyes. But instead of backing down, he doubled down. Save your fortune cookie quotes, I'll prove you wrong. He stormed off the mat, tossing his gloves aside. The door slammed behind him. The recruits exchanged uneasy glances. No one said a word. Out in the hallway, Cole paced angrily. He couldn't stand the humiliation. Every time he tried to challenge Seagal, he ended up looking foolish. And now everyone had seen it. Again. He punched a locker, muttering to himself, Old man thinks he can embarrass me in front of everyone? Not this time. He didn't notice someone approaching from down the hall. Someone whose presence alone could silence an entire room. Officer Cole. A sharp voice called out. He turned and froze. Standing at the entrance in full uniform was Captain Sarah Cole, his mother. The Academy's most respected Special Operations Commander. Her expression was unreadable, but her eyes said it all. She had heard everything. Cole's heart dropped. Mom, Captain, I didn't know you were coming today. She walked past, him without a word, entering the dojo where Seagal stood speaking quietly with the instructors. Cole followed nervously, realizing his nightmare was just beginning. Every recruit straightened up instantly. The atmosphere shifted. Captain Sarah extended her hand toward Seagal. Mr. Seagal, she said respectfully, an honor to finally meet you. Seagal bowed slightly. The honor's mine, Captain. Then her gaze turned, sharp, cold, toward her son. Officer Cole, she said, we need to talk. The room went completely silent. Everyone could tell the real lesson was about to begin. If you were standing there as a bystander, would you step in or stay quiet when someone disrespects a legend like this? Comment your answer below. The dojo was so quiet you could hear the hum of the air vents. Every officer in the room stood stiff, eyes bouncing between Captain Sarah Cole and her son, Officer Cole, who suddenly wished the ground would swallow him whole. Steven Seagal stood calmly, hands folded in front of him, observing the moment like a silent guardian. Captain Sarah took one slow step toward her son. Her voice when she finally spoke was low but carried power like thunder waiting to break. I've heard stories about an officer disrespecting a guest instructor, she began, eyes never leaving Cole. I hoped it wasn't true. Cole's throat tightened. Ma'am, I was just quiet, she snapped. When you're in this uniform, you represent more than yourself. You represent every badge, every oath, every fallen brother and sister who gave their lives serving this country. Her tone softened, but only slightly. And today you represented none of that. The recruits shifted uncomfortably. No one dared look away. Seagal remained silent, watching the scene unfold, the master of calm witnessing another master of command. Cole tried to defend himself. With all due respect, Captain, I was only testing him. I didn't mean. She raised her hand, stopping him mid-sentence. You meant every word. You let pride speak louder than respect. Cole looked down. The humiliation burned deeper than any throw or takedown could. Captain Sarah turned to Seagal. Mr. Seagal, on behalf of this department, I apologize for my officer's conduct. You were invited here to teach discipline and control. Clearly, he needs both. Seagal gave a small bow. There's no need to apologize, Captain. Lessons are never wasted, even when they hurt. Then, unexpectedly, Sarah said, Perhaps you'd allow me to teach my son one of my own. Seagal smiled knowingly. By all means, Captain. The floor is yours. Cole's eyes widened. Mom, please, Captain, she corrected sharply. On the mat. The crowd gasped. Cole hesitated. Wait, you're not serious. Her stare could cut through stone. Do I look like I'm joking, officer? He swallowed hard and stepped forward. Every recruit pulled out their phones again. They knew this would be legendary. As the two faced off, Seagal stepped aside, quietly observing with arms folded. Captain Sarah circled her son like a predator assessing its prey. You think control means dominance, son, she said evenly. You think yelling makes you strong, but you've forgotten the first rule I ever taught you. Cole's voice was barely audible. Always respect your opponent. Exactly, in an instant she moved, and faster than anyone expected. With surgical precision, she swept his leg, spun him off balance, and had him pinned on the mat in less than 3 seconds. The room erupted in a chorus of, "Whoa!" and nervous laughter. Cole groaned. You've got to be kidding me. Sarah leaned closer. Strength without discipline is weakness. Remember that. Before it destroys you. She let him go, standing tall. Cole sat up, face red, breathing heavily. Okay. You made your point, but she wasn't done. Get up, she ordered. He did, slowly. Now, you're going to look this man in the eye, she said, nodding to Seagal, and apologize like a professional. Cole hesitated. His ego flared one last time, but when he looked up at Seagal, all he saw was calm. The kind of calm that came from years of discipline, pain, and mastery. Sir. Cole began, his voice trembling slightly. I'm sorry for how I acted. I disrespected you, this academy, and my badge. It won't happen again. Seagal nodded. Apology accepted. You've taken your first real lesson. He placed a hand on Cole's shoulder. Remember, a warrior's power isn't in his fists. It's in his peace. The words hit Cole harder than any punch. For the first time, he actually listened. Then Captain Sarah turned toward the rest of the recruits. Let this be a reminder, she said, her voice filling the room. Respect isn't given, it's earned. But once you lose it, it takes everything in you to win it back. Every officer nodded silently. Some even looked inspired. She continued, You all came here to learn from one of the best martial artists alive. Don't waste that gift by letting pride blind you. Learn humility, because someday the person you underestimate might just save your life. The room went still again. Even Seagal gave a respectful nod of agreement. Cole stood beside his mother, still catching his breath. But this time his posture was different, less arrogant, more grounded. As the training session ended, Seagal walked over to Sarah and said quietly, You raised a good soldier, Captain. He just needed a reminder of who he is. Sarah smiled faintly. He's got his father's temper and my stubbornness. But he'll learn. Seagal chuckled softly. Then I'd say he's already halfway to mastery. They shook hands. The mutual respect between them was clear. 2 warriors, 2 teachers, each understanding the other without needing many words. As the recruits began to leave, whispers filled the room. Man, that was insane. His mom destroyed him. Seagal and the captain, what a combo. Cole stayed behind for a moment, looking at the mat. He wasn't humiliated anymore, he was humbled. He turned to Seagal and said, Thank you. For not giving up on me. Seagal smiled. We never give up on those who are willing to change. Cole nodded slowly. I won't forget this. Have you ever been humbled by someone who taught you a powerful life lesson? Tell me in the comments, I'll pin the best story. The next day, the academy buzzed with rumors. Every corner whispered the same story. How Officer Cole got schooled not once, but twice, first by Steven Seagal, then by his own mother, the special ops captain. But while most were laughing, Cole wasn't hiding anymore. Something had changed. His walk was slower, but his gaze steadier. The kind of calm that only comes after you've been broken and rebuilt from the inside. He entered the dojo early, hours before anyone else. Alone, he bowed at the entrance, something he had refused to do before, and stepped onto the mat. He began training in silence. No cameras, no bravado, just movement, repetition, focus. For the first time, he wasn't fighting someone else, he was fighting his own ego. Steven Seagal arrived quietly around mid-morning, surprised to see Cole already drenched in sweat. "You're early," Seagal said, setting his training bag down. Cole looked up, breathing heavily. "Guess I had a lot to work on." Seagal smiled faintly. "Discipline starts when no one's watching." Cole nodded, wiping his face. "Yesterday I thought you embarrassed me, but now I realize you saved me. My pride was turning me into the kind of cop I swore I'd never become." Seagal's eyes softened. "Awareness is the first step to mastery, son." They bowed to each other, and Seagal joined him on the mat. Soon the other recruits filed in, surprised to see Cole training alongside Seagal instead of mocking him. The energy in the room shifted. Even Captain Sarah watched silently from the observation window above, her arms crossed but a faint smile tugging at her lips. The instructor clapped his hands. "Today's test will be a team drill, pairs against multiple attackers. Show us your coordination, restraint, and control." All eyes went to Seagal and Cole. They were paired together. "Looks like round 3, one recruit whispered. But this time, there was no tension, only quiet respect. When the whistle blew, 2 recruits stepped forward as attackers. Cole took a defensive stance beside Seagal. The first attacker lunged. Cole moved instinctively, but instead of fighting wildly, he redirected the momentum using Seagal's earlier technique. The man hit the mat gently, disarmed but unharmed. The second attacker swung a padded baton. Seagal shifted behind Cole, giving him a subtle nod. Cole caught the baton mid-swing, twisted, and performed a perfect takedown. Smooth, controlled, precise. The dojo erupted in applause. Cole looked up at Seagal, smiling for the first time in days. "I did it right this time," Seagal nodded. "No, we did it right. You finally understood the rhythm." But the real test wasn't over. The instructor announced, "Final scenario. Disarm and detain an armed suspect under stress conditions." The lights dimmed slightly. Sirens blared from the speakers. The simulation began. Cole's heart pounded as a suspect actor burst into the room holding a replica pistol, shouting and pacing aggressively. "Drop the weapon," Cole commanded, voice calm but firm. The suspect refused. The tension built. Everyone held their breath. Cole glanced at Seagal. No words, just a shared understanding. Then in one clean motion, he stepped forward, deflected the suspect's arm, locked the wrist, and safely disarmed him, all without a single strike. The instructor blew the whistle. "Perfect control," he announced. "Zero unnecessary force. That's what law enforcement is supposed to look like." The room erupted in cheers. Cole took a deep breath. The adrenaline faded, replaced by something else, peace. Captain Sarah walked down from the observation deck and entered the dojo. Every recruit snapped to attention. She looked at her son, then at Seagal. "That was impressive," Seagal smiled. "He's come a long way in just a day." Sarah nodded. "Looks like he finally learned the lesson." Cole stepped forward. Captain, I wanted to thank you both for not giving up on me even when I made it hard," she smirked. "That's part of being your mother and your commanding officer." Then, to everyone's surprise, she turned toward the recruits and said, "Today, this officer showed what redemption looks like. Mistakes don't define you. Refusing to learn from them does." Her voice carried through the entire hall. "Every one of you will face a moment where pride and purpose collide. Choose purpose every single time." After class, Seagal and Cole sat on the edge of the mat, cooling down. Cole broke the silence. "You know, when I first saw you, I thought you were just some washed-up movie star." Seagal chuckled softly. "And now?" Cole smiled. "Now I realize, and you're the calm I've been chasing my whole life." Seagal looked at him. "That calm is already in you. You just needed to stop fighting it." Later that evening, as the sun set over the academy, Cole walked outside to the parking lot. His mother was waiting by her car. He approached her, unsure what to say. Sarah gave him a rare smile. "I'm proud of you, son. Even after all that?" he asked. She chuckled. "Especially after all that. You faced yourself and you won." He nodded slowly. "Guess I had the best teachers in the world." She placed a hand on his shoulder. "Just promise me one thing. Don't ever let your badge make you forget your humanity." He smiled. "Yes, ma'am." As she drove off, Cole looked back at the dojo where Seagal still trained in the dim light. For the first time, he felt something deeper than pride. Peace. Have you ever had someone believe in you even after you messed up? Tell me about that person in the comments. They deserve some love today. By the next morning, the entire academy had changed its tone. What started as gossip had turned into admiration. Everyone wanted to train with Steven Seagal. But more surprisingly, everyone wanted to learn from Officer Cole. The video of the confrontation, from his arrogance to his defeat to his redemption, had somehow leaked online. Within hours, it spread like wildfire across social media. Clips of Seagal calmly humbling the young officer were captioned. When ego meets experience, respect rank, and real martial artists don't boast, they teach. But the clip that truly went viral wasn't the takedown. It was the moment Cole stood beside Seagal, performing the perfect disarm with calm precision. The world didn't just see humiliation. They saw growth. The comments flooded in. "That young cop earned my respect. Props to Seagal for being a real teacher. And that mom, absolute legend." By noon, the video had racked up over 10 million views. Inside the academy, Seagal stood with the command staff, reviewing the final evaluations. Cole entered holding his head high. Not from pride this time, but from purpose. "Mr. Seagal," the chief said, "it's been an honor having you here. You've not only improved our training, but you've reminded us what discipline truly looks like." Seagal nodded humbly. "It's not about me. It's about what they carry forward after I leave." He glanced at Cole. "Especially this one." Cole straightened. "Sir, you've come full circle," Seagal said. "You were your own worst enemy, but you turned that weakness into strength. Don't ever lose that humility again." Cole smiled faintly. "I won't, I promise." Later that afternoon, Seagal was preparing to leave when a group of recruits surrounded him, including Cole. "Sir," one of them asked, "how do you stay so calm, even when people disrespect you?" Seagal smiled. "When someone disrespects you, they reveal who they are, not who you are. Reacting with anger means you're giving them control. Staying calm means you've mastered yourself." Cole nodded thoughtfully. "So, self-control isn't weakness, it's power." "Exactly," Seagal said. "It's the difference between a fighter and a warrior." Suddenly, a journalist entered the hall, microphone in hand. "Mr. Seagal, Officer Cole, do you mind answering a few questions about the viral video?" Cole froze, unsure how to respond. Seagal turned calmly. "Go ahead." The reporter smiled. "People online are calling this the most powerful instant karma story of the year. What would you both say to those who think this was just a humiliation video?" Seagal chuckled. "If that's all they saw, then they missed the real story. This wasn't about humiliation, it was about transformation." He looked at Cole. "Why don't you tell them yourself?" Cole took a deep breath. Cameras pointed his way. He could almost hear his heartbeat. "I messed up," he began. "I disrespected a man who's done more for martial arts and law enforcement than I ever realized. But instead of shaming me, he taught me. And instead of letting my pride define me, I learned to let humility rebuild me." The crowd of recruits watching broke into quiet applause. The reporter nodded. "That's powerful. What did you learn most from this experience?" Cole smiled. "That the real strength of a cop or any person isn't how hard they hit. It's how deeply they listen. Respect doesn't come from your badge or your belt rank. It comes from your behavior." As the interview ended, Seagal placed a hand on his shoulder. "You did well. That message will reach more people than you realize." Cole exhaled. "Feels strange. Yesterday I was a meme, today I'm a message." Seagal smiled. "That's karma. It gives you what you need, not what you want." That evening, the department hosted a small appreciation ceremony for Seagal. Officers gathered in the main hall, cameras rolling as Captain Sarah Cole took the stage. She looked across the crowd. "I've served this department for 20 years. I've seen arrogance destroy good men, But I've also seen humility turn them into leaders. Her gaze landed on her son. Today I'm proud, not because my son went viral, but because he learned the hardest lesson of all, the power of silence, respect, and grace. Applause echoed through the hall. She turned toward Seagal. Mr. Seagal, on behalf of every officer here, thank you. Not just for your training, but for reminding us what honor looks like. Seagal bowed slightly. The honor is mine, Captain. The world doesn't need more fighters. It needs protectors. After the ceremony, as the crowd dispersed, Seagal and Cole stepped outside. The night was quiet, stars scattered across the sky. Cole spoke first. Sir, before you leave, and I just want to say thank you. Not for teaching me to fight, but for teaching me to stop fighting myself. Seagal smiled gently. Every warrior walks that path. The ones who make peace with themselves are the ones who truly win. They shook hands. You've got a good future, Officer Cole, Seagal said. Just remember, every time you put on that badge, you're not showing power. You're showing service, Cole nodded. I won't forget. The next morning, as Seagal's plane took off, Cole stood watching from the runway. He wasn't the same man who had laughed at Steven Seagal days earlier. Now he was quieter, stronger, wiser. The viral clip had made him famous, but the lesson had made him better. Have you ever learned a tough lesson that completely changed who you are? Share it below. Your story might inspire someone watching this right now. Days later, the world was still talking. The story of the arrogant cop humbled by Steven Seagal and saved by his mom had spread far beyond the academy walls. Major news outlets picked it up. Talk shows debated it. Motivational pages reposted it with captions like, "Respect everyone, because you never know who life will send to teach you a lesson." But for Officer Cole, the real story wasn't what people saw online. It was what had changed inside him. He no longer checked comments or counted views. He was too busy doing what he should have been doing all along, serving, learning, and training others with patience instead of pride. Every morning, he led new recruits through drills, but this time he taught them Seagal's philosophy: control, respect, and awareness. One afternoon, while finishing a training session, Cole received a letter. It was simple, handwritten, and signed with elegant strokes. Cole, remember, the calmest man in the room always wins. Seagal. Tucked inside the envelope was a small wooden bracelet, a gift Seagal had worn during training. Cole smiled. He tied it around his wrist, feeling the weight of its meaning. That simple gesture said everything. Months passed. The viral fame faded, but the lesson lived on. Cole's transformation became a model for others in the academy. Even his toughest critics admitted he had grown into one of the most composed, fair officers they'd seen. Captain Sarah couldn't have been prouder. Though she rarely said it out loud, she knew her son had turned into the kind of man his late father would have admired: humble, patient, and strong. One evening, she walked past the training hall and saw Cole teaching a group of rookies. He wasn't shouting or showing off, just calmly demonstrating a defensive move. As she watched, one recruit asked him, "Sir, how'd you learn to stay so calm under pressure?" Cole chuckled softly. "Because once I did the opposite, and it nearly cost me everything." He paused. Control isn't about being fearless, it's about being aware of your fear and moving anyway. Sarah smiled from the doorway, unseen. Her job as a mother and a leader felt complete in that moment. Weeks later, Cole received an unexpected call. "Officer Cole," the voice said. "Steven Seagal would like to see you." Cole froze. "See me? Where?" "Downtown. There's a charity event. Veterans, first responders, martial arts demos. He specifically requested your presence." Cole couldn't believe it. When he arrived at the event hall, he spotted Seagal surrounded by reporters and fans. But as soon as their eyes met, Seagal waved him over. "Officer Cole," Seagal greeted warmly. "I was hoping you'd come." They shook hands and Seagal motioned to the stage. "We're doing a live demonstration. Care to assist me one last time?" Cole grinned. "It would be an honor." The crowd cheered as the two stepped onto the mat together. This time, there was no tension. No arrogance, no fear. Just respect. They moved in perfect rhythm, teacher and student, mirror images of control. Every motion spoke louder than words. When the demo ended, the crowd erupted in applause. Cameras flashed. Reporters rushed forward. Seagal raised Cole's arm and said into the mic, "This man represents what true change looks like. We all make mistakes, but what defines us is the courage to learn from them." He looked at the crowd. Humility isn't weakness. It's the foundation of strength. The audience rose to their feet, cheering. Cole felt tears well up, but he quickly blinked them away. Later, as they stood backstage, Seagal turned to him. "You've come far, son. Remember, instant karma isn't punishment, it's a correction. The universe gives us mirrors to see who we really are." Cole nodded. "And sometimes those mirrors throw us on the mat." Seagal laughed quietly. "Exactly." They shook hands one last time. As Seagal walked away, Cole stood still, watching the man who had changed his life disappear into the lights. He looked down at the wooden bracelet around his wrist and whispered, "Thank you, Sensei." The story faded from headlines soon after, but those who saw it never forgot it. It wasn't just about a fight or a viral clip. It was about humility, discipline, and respect. If you believe respect is more powerful than pride, type respect in the comments. And remember, real strength isn't in how hard you hit, it's in how calm you stay.